Lord Lieutenant, members of the Stagg family, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Dalkeith. I'm happy to say the weather on the 6th of June is considerably better than the weather was on the 5th of June. Welcome here for today's ceremony, recognising the hugely significant contribution, indeed as the BBC said, the critical contribution made during World War II by one of Dalkeith's finest sons, Group Captain James Stagg. It's particularly pleasing to see so many of you here today on this, the 75th anniversary of the D-Day landings, the biggest combined naval, air and land operation in the history of warfare. Today, special commemorations are taking place across the UK and in France, and ours here, despite its scale, is no less important. A great many laid down their lives in the defence of our freedoms, but many, many lives were also saved, and the liberation of a democratic Europe was assured thanks to the success of Operation Overlord and the Battle of Normandy. That was due in no small part to the knowledge, professionalism and commitment of James Stagg. Today's long-awaited ceremony would not have been possible were it not for the passion, determination and community spirit of one person, Sharon McIntosh. Her tremendous fundraising efforts, her ability to enthuse others and to garner support from far and wide are an inspiration to all. Thanks are also due to all those associated with the project, in particular the generous individuals, families and organisations, many of whom are represented here today, who've helped raise the funds for this most fitting memorial. I'm delighted to be here as Provost this morning to lend my support and that of Midlothian Council and to introduce Sharon to tell you more about the great man and his legacy. Sharon.
I just want to say thank you all for coming along today. I'm absolutely thrilled to see so many people here on this important and beautiful day. The weather gods have been on our side today. I first heard about Group Captain James Martin Stagg relatively late in life when, in 2014, my late father announced that he wanted to go and see the play about the man from Dalkeith who predicted the weather for the D-Day landings and saved thousands of lives. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How did I not know about such an important person, and why is there no mention of him in Dalkeith? To my surprise, I later discovered that James Stagg's name is on the ducks board at my old school, Dalkeith High. I walked past that ducks board almost every day for 5 years, never knowing that the fourth name down was such an important figure in our history. After seeing Pressure, the play about James Stagg, I became curious as to why there was no memorial for him in his hometown. Bearing in mind the important role that he played in World War II, I'm extremely proud of the fact that I come from Dalkeith and that Stagg was raised here too, so I decided to do something about it. I'll say more about that in a moment. So, who was James Martin Stagg and what is his connection to Dalkeith? Contrary to what you may find on the internet, James Stagg wasn't born in Dalkeith. His birth certificate shows that he was born on 30th June 1900 at 122 New Street, Musselburgh, the eldest son of Alexander Cairn Stagg, a plumber, and Ellen Martin. Although not born in Dalkeith, James was raised in Schooltier. Census records show that in 1901 the family was living at 6X Place, and in the early 1900s they moved to 153 The High Street, Dalkeith, where they lived for the next 20 years. Later, in 1922, the Stagg family bought Marchbanks on the old Edinburgh Road, but it's likely that James was probably living independently by then. Alexander, Stagg's father, ran a successful plumbing business, which was based at 126 The High Street. The family also had a connection with Stagg's public house in Musselburgh, which still exists. We know that James Stagg was educated at the old Dalkeith High School, which in his day took pupils from the age of 5. In 1907, 1908 and 1911, he won certificates for perfect attendance. In 1914 to 15, at the end of his third higher grade year, age 15, he was awarded Dux of the school. At this time, Dalkeith High School did not provide education beyond the age of 15, so Stagg completed his schooling at Broughton Junior Student Centre in Edinburgh. In July 1917, he won a bursary to attend Edinburgh University, graduating with a first-class honours degree in mathematics and natural philosophy in July 1920. The following year, he gained a diploma in education. Between 1921 and 1923, he was Science Master at George Heriot's School, Edinburgh, and in 1924 took up a post as an assistant in the meteorological office. In 1939, James was served as superintendent of the Kew Gardens Observatory, and so to D-Day. In 1943, James Stagg was appointed Chief Meteorological Advisor to the Allied Forces and headed the group who forecast weather conditions in the English Channel in the weeks leading up to the D-Day landings. This was given the code name Operation Overlord. Dubbed the most important weather forecast of all time, James Stagg secured his place in history on 4th June 1944 in conversation with the man responsible for the planning and carrying out of the Allied assault on the Normandy coast and the subsequent liberation of Western Europe, General Dwight Eisenhower. Predicting bad weather in the English Channel for 5th June, Stagg advised General Eisenhower to delay the planned invasion by 24 hours. Stagg was aware conditions for the success of D-Day were specific. It had to be within a few days of a full moon, and there had to be low tides at dawn. Intelligence suggested that the Germans believed bad weather would make a 6th June invasion impossible. Crucially, the Germans had virtually no observation charts of the UK and surrounding waters. This enabled Stagg to track a ridge of high pressure in the Atlantic, and in the knowledge that the Germans would be unaware of the small window of opportunity and better weather on the 6th of June. Whilst our Dalkeith weather forecaster conveyed his advice, General Eisenhower read his face like a barometer. Eisenhower knew what was at stake here. This could mean the difference between the success or failure of the largest military operation in history. Eisenhower considered Stagg's argument for less than a minute. "OK," said the general, "let's go." With the Dalkeith man's actions at the very centre of these historic events, something of my father's interest in James Stagg rubbed off, and I felt moved to try and bring about a memorial to him so that other people in Dalkeith and beyond would learn about what James Stagg did and its impact not only on the lives of those involved in World War II, but in all our lives subsequently. I soon discovered I had an ally in the then chair of the Dalkeith History Society, Alan Mason. Is Alan here? No? No. There's Alan. Okay. So in 2018, a small working group was formed with Alan, Councillor Colin Cassidy, hand up, Colin Cassidy, John Jack, chair of the Museum Advisory Group. Where's John?
Not here.
Is he not here? No. And David Russell, Senior Communications. Oh, is he? And David Russell, Senior Communications Officer at Midlothian Council. It's David. And Rod Lugg, Regeneration Manager, hiding at the back. Thank you all for your help, guidance, and most of all, patience. We decided that a plaque would be an appropriate way to commemorate James Stagg. The struggle for funding made me realise that the only way it was actually going to happen was with a crowdfunding effort. So I set up a Just Giving page and let people know about it in social media and the Midlothian Advertiser. It was fantastic that in less than 2 weeks the required sum had been raised. I'd like to thank everybody who contributed for their generosity and for appreciating just how important this memorial is. In the face of a number of planning hurdles, we battled on, eventually settling on the plaque that I am proud to have James's son Peter unveiled to you today, and by also having him recognised on our Dalkeith Heritage Trail by a smaller plaque on the site of the Stagg's former home at 169 the High Street. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is little more for me to say or do other than to thank Peter, Sue, Jamie and Alice for making the trip to Dalkeith. It really is such an honour to have you here today. I'm absolutely thrilled to bits, and I'd now like to invite Peter to unveil our memorial plaque to James Martin Stagg on this, the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. It's a wonderful turnout. Fantastic. I'm probably the only person here today, my family apart, not speaking with a Scottish accent, but I'm very proud to be a Scot, and a Dalkeith one at that. And my family and I are very proud and honoured to have been invited to this memorable occasion today. It's probably fair to say that when I was playing rugby for Scotland, my name was better known in Dalkeith than my father's, and that says much about how little recognition my father was given in the UK during his life, despite enormous achievements, this being mainly because he worked for General Eisenhower, an American, during the war. I think that started to change with David Haig and his play Pressure, which was first performed in Edinburgh 5 years ago, and also with the D-Day celebrations that year. And this launched Sharon, I think I'm correct in saying, on her mission on behalf of my father. I know from contact with Sharon over the past year or two what difficulties she encountered, and I and my brother Sandy, who unfortunately can't be with us today, will be forever indebted to her for what she has achieved on behalf of my father. And I must also thank not only Sharon but also those who helped her on her campaign, in particular in the names that have just been mentioned recently, Alan Mason, Derek Hanlon in the early stages, and latterly Councillor Colin Cassidy. I would also like to thank all those who contributed to the crowdfunding for the plaque, and I hope that in future I can find some way to repay their generosity. I would also like to thank Jerry and Susan Goldwar for their great kindness in hosting my family and me at their beautiful water tower, and to give a big thank you to Midlothian Council for their arrangements today. One last thing, Billy Gaborio and his rugby friends at Jarnac, France, including Alan Bain, who I think some of you know, send their best wishes to you all, and in particular to their friends at Dalkeith Rugby Club. Thank you very much.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Really.